On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. What do? We look at the actual historical returns to the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, which includes the depression years. We project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future, and the resulting numbers are simply a possible range of what may happen in the future. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a numbers guy. I will run numbers for you. If you want me to run numbers, just ask in the comment section. Just give me these criteria: your beginning balance, just one number, please, your monthly contribution. In this case, we're going to be looking at a person that's reached retirement. They're going to be begin withdrawing. So that's one number. And then whether you want to increase your contribution in the accumulation stage, if you want a COLA in the withdrawal stage, we'll go ahead and run it. If you're in the accumulation stage, it's best if we have at least 20 years. And when you start seeing it after 30 and 35 and 40 years, the numbers are mind boggling. So if you're in your early 30s to maybe early 40s, and if you got at least 20 years, the numbers are simply mind boggling. So let's go. I've got a request here for somebody. They said they have $2.3 million. Again, that's the first criteria. Give me your beginning balance and we'll run numbers for you. But I also need to know how much you want to withdraw. He said he's going to withdraw 76,000, which the closest thing I have here is 6,250 a month, which would be 75,000. He said he wanted to do a 3.3% COLA. Well, I got a 3% COLA. And he says he wants to do an 80-20 asset allocation split. So 80% stay in the S&P 500, 20% going over some kind of a liquid account. So when the market's going down, the 75,000 is coming out of it, not out of the S&P 500. You don't want to sell low. You don't want to be withdrawing this 75,000 out of a market that's already going down. So this is a good split, 80-20. What we're going to do is go ahead and update this for every single year to see how it would work out for him. Again, that's what we do on this channel. Give me your beginning balance, your monthly amount, if you want a COLA, and if you want an asset allocation other than 100%, which most financial advisors, which I'm not one, recommend at least maybe a 60-40, 70-30. In this case, he asked for an 80-20. I want you to notice the numbers here, folks. He's got a 3.26% withdrawal rate. Notice that? He's got this much and he's taken out 75,000. That's 3.26. If you can stay below that 4% rule or at 4%, you're in good shape. The only time you have a problem is if you don't have your asset allocation. I want you to notice this is a summary box. Again, we're looking at the worst case scenario, folks, in the last 100 years. We're looking at this decade right here. If you started in 1929 and the market collapsed like it did in 1929, watch what happens if you left it all in the stock market. All of a sudden, you got the reds. You notice the reds there? But as soon as you go to an 80-20 uh, asset allocation, then you've got money left, even in the worst case scenario. That 4% rule is golden, folks. If you can keep the 4%, and if you got any kind of asset allocation other than 100% stay in the S&P 500, 70, 30, 60, 40, or whatever. In fact, hey, if you watch this right here, this is what you'd have after 30 years. If you started out in the worst case scenario, you'd have $3 million after 30 years. Watch the 70-30 split. Then you'd have $4 million. How about the 60-40? Now you're going back down a little bit. So it's best if you can stay. You want to leave a whole bunch in the S&P 500 because you want to benefit from these uh, positive returns going forward because the market always finds a way to come back. It may take a while, but look at some of these returns, folks, going forward uh, after a down decade like the 1930s or even a down decade like the 2000s. Look how it came back. It dropped 37%, but look what the next decade did. Again, there's no guarantees, but that's why we like to show you the worst case scenario. And so always look at 1929 numbers. If you can survive a 1929 crash, you're probably be in good shape. And we found that 3.26 is just fine, except if you left it all in the market, which right here you saw you'd run out of money. But if you have any kind of asset allocation, I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but uh, most people would not leave it all in the S&P 500. So you can see with his 3.26% withdrawal rate, he's going to be just fine. Let's look at the actual graph after 20 years. This is 5 million. This is 10 million. This is 15 million. Remember, he's starting out with 22,300,000. The only time he even got a little bit low was right here in 1929. And we saw that right here, the 1929 numbers got down to 975,000 after 20 years, but then it took off. Why? Because the market started coming back. After 20 years, you go down here a little bit farther and I'll show you this. Started hitting some of these good decades and look at these kind of returns. Not too many negative decades. negative years, and it just took off. If you can be in it for the long term. But that's what we do with this channel. We run numbers for people. I love doing it. If you want me to run numbers for you, just give me your beginning balance, please. Just one number, your monthly contribution, if the accumulation stage. I know I've already said this, but sometimes people start giving me all kinds of different scenarios. I just run numbers with these criteria. Also, I recently added a thanks button on the videos. If you want to buy me a cup of coffee or something, you can hit the thanks button underneath this video and buy me a coffee if that's what you want to do. I'm not in this for making any money, folks. I just want to help people, but I just thought if you wanted to give me any kind of thanks. Also, this is a 20-year graph. Well, look at the 30-year graph. It's even more amazing. Folks, now we're talking about 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. And the numbers are just mind-boggling if you can hang in there, because this is the 30-year column. You can see it's 58, 60 million, 21 million, just all kinds of numbers. 100% of the time you have over 3 million, 98% of the time you have over 5 million, and 95% of the time you'd have over $10 million. Why? Because you're keeping it less than 4%. At the 4% rule or less 4% of whatever your beginning balance is. And these are the kind of numbers you're looking forward to. Again, we don't really believe the market's going to do any worse than what it's done in the last 100 years. It's not going to be any worse than the Depression type years. If it is, we're all kind of sunk, aren't we? Again, please subscribe, please share, please like these videos, and thanks so much for watching.